Good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll continue our book reading this morning, The Toyota Way to Service Excellence by Jeffrey K. Leica and Karen Ross. Yesterday, on page 30, chapter 2, page 13, we looked at developing Toyota leaders as coach. Remember, we're in chapter 2, which says the Toyota Way to Service Excellence continues to evolve. We looked at the developing leaders as coach and the three waves, and those three waves that a person must achieve or must get to as a leader to become a coach for the rest is that the person must be able to teach what he or she has learned, the person must be able to do it, and the person must be aware of it. So as a Toyota leader, or to become a leader, let's generalize. To become a leader, you have to continuously improve yourself. You have to continuously learn. You have to continuously teach yourself so that you'll be able to teach others that are coming behind you, or those that are below you, your subordinates. Yesterday we looked at wave 1, teaching the principles of Toyota way, which is number one, development through pilot testing, and number 2, training for senior executive, and the rest of it. Today we'll be looking at wave 2 of the Toyota leaders as coach, the three waves. We're looking at wave 2, which says Toyota business practices to put the theory into action. Toyota business practices to put the theory into action. So because the Toyota way training was designed to teach principles rather than specific methodology, the link to action was a bit tedious. The Fujitsu still saw a gap in the depth of understanding he expected. It became clear that even when the application of theory through case studies and projects, there was something missing. The skills development had only come from action. This realization resulted in the development of a second wave of training, Toyota business practice. Fujitsu explained this as the concrete method of putting the Toyota way into action. Many will recognize TBP as an 8-step problem-solving process. Notice that TBP follows the famous improvement process of Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDCA. The development of PDCA is often attributed to Dr. Deming, who alternatively called it Plan, Do, Study, Act. The critical insight is that all plans are provisional and actually represent hypotheses being tested. From a scientific viewpoint, the plans are theories until we test them by running experiments. Unfortunately, in too many organizations, we see lean experts who presume they know what the problem is and how to solve it. This disease of certainty discourages experimenting with alternative approaches, and it truncates the opportunities for learning. The Do, Check, Act is running the experiment, checking the results, and reflecting on what has been learned. In fact, the first 5 steps of TBT are planning, establishing the hypothesis. We start with a broad definition of the problem based on identifying the ideal state and comparing it with the current state. We study the current state in detail through data and direct observation, going to and studying the Gemba. We recognize that the ideal state is unachievable, so we break down the mega problem into smaller, tractable problems that still represent major challenges. Then set target for improvement. We do our best to understand the root cause of the gap between the current state and our targets. Recognizing the root cause is our best informed guess, and then develop a set possible countermeasures that we believe may bring us closer to the target. The countermeasures are the hypotheses that we are directly testing by doing, then checking, and then taking further action, such as standardizing what works. Let's consider each of the steps of the TBP. Number 1, clarify the problem relative to the idea, that is plan. Few problem-solving efforts start with defining the ideal state. By defining the ideal state first, TBP pulls the problem solver out of the presentation and its seemingly interactable problems and focuses her on envisioning what the process could be like if we are functioning to be perfect. As well as envisioning a perfect future state, in order to clarify the problem relative to the idea, a deep understanding of the current state must be developed, and the only way to do this is by going to directly study the gemba, the place where the problems are occurring, so the gaps between the idea and the reality becomes glaring. Number 2, breaking down the problem into manageable pieces. Number 3, set targets. Number 4, root cause analysis. Number 5, develop countermeasures. Number 6, set countermeasures thoroughly. Number 7, monitor both results and process. Number 8, standardize successful processes, adjust and spread. Okay, so this is where we'll stop for reading this morning. Set Toyota business practice to put the theories into action. So before they begin to, implement what they've learned in their course of training, which is teaching the principles of the Toyota way, in their course of training, before they start to apply whatever they've learned, those theories that they've learned that is part of the principles in Toyota way, they have to first of all clarify what problems they're actually having, study the problems they're having and know what the problem is before they'll be able to put anything into consideration. So like I told us here, number 1, you have to clarify the problems relative to the idea, then break the problem down into manageable pieces, set targets, look for the root cause and develop a countermeasure, and also monitor both results and processes. So whenever there is a problem, what they do is to sit down first of all, analyze this problem, go back to the drawing board, look at how they can, apply what they've learned to all this problem, then come back and do this application, try to break down the problem into smaller countermeasures, into smaller ways or into smaller plan, and also look for the ways to manage them piece by piece. So that's just a brief explanation of where we read this morning. Said with Toyota business practices to put the theory into action. So this is your end for our reading this morning. Thank you.